So welcome to our introduction to the Secret Project and to Noah's Ark in Minecraft. Here it is. Take a look. The beautiful and one and only Noah's Ark. So we're going to take a little bit of a tour. As you can tell, if you're familiar playing Minecraft, I am floating around. I'm flying, so clearly I am playing in creative mode. Yes, there's a little bit of a cheat function in Minecraft. One of the things that you can do is you can actually fly around. Those of you who are Minecraft vets, you of course already know this, and this is just old news for you. There are some creeps that are here just wandering around on Noah's Ark. They have spawned throughout the night. It's actually nighttime right now. If you can look and see that there are some bubbles floating above my head, it's because I've got a nighttime potion going on right now, just so that way I can see. And we're going to let that wear off throughout the video, and you'll be able to see what it looks like in the dark, all lit up here inside the Ark. But the first thing to take a look at when you're looking at the Ark, and the discussion that we had from the get-go, was design. What's the Ark going to look like? And while we were doing research for this, it was really difficult and really interesting to figure out and to look through different histories and different pictures and different artist representations of Noah's Ark. Several different versions of Noah's Ark have it looking very similar to almost a long rectangular box, with either end being flat and then with one major door, perhaps either on either end or in the middle somewhere. For us, what we did was we decided as a creative team to go with a more boaty feel than a box feel. So as you can see, Noah's Ark, our rendition of it actually has got some shape and some form to it. All of the curvature around the Ark itself was planned out by our lead design engineer, Beckett. They did a great job making sure that everything lined up symmetrically, because there were a couple times that different folks were laying out different plans for different levels or different floors, and you just got to make sure that everything's symmetrical. You got to make sure that you're counting right, that everything lines up, and it really gave, at least to me, and I think to all three of us that were working on this, to myself, to Beckett, and to Leroy, that it really gave a level of depth and at least a level of appreciation just on how thorough you've got to be if you're going to build an ocean-going vessel. And we're just building it in Minecraft, let alone actually floating. So here you go. This is the outside of Noah's Ark, as you can tell. Genesis 6 tells us that the Ark has got 3 levels. It's got an upper, a lower, and a middle. And so we wanted to stay consistent and true to that theme by having an upper, a middle, and a lower. Each level is separated by a sub-level, by a subdivision, and each division is kind of appropriated for different uses on the Ark, whether that's for animal storage, or whether that's for container storage, or whether that's for human food, or for animal food. Just thinking through the various issues, what would have Noah and his sons and the design team, when God actually commanded them to build the Ark, what would they have had to think through in terms of storage and where things would go, and what the Ark would actually look like. Now, I will tell you, there are some creative liberties that we took with the Ark. For instance, Genesis 6 tells us that God commanded Noah to give the Ark a roof, and so what we did was we actually gave 4 roofs and created 4 different houses, one for each of the for Noah, and then for Shem, for Ham, and for Japheth. And let's go ahead and take a look at each of these houses that we made. They're mostly symmetrical. I don't think there's any uniqueness to any particular house in and of themselves. The design, again, was designed by Leroy and by Beckett, and we can see this maybe is Noah's house. He's got some beds in here for some folks, maybe some servants, if there were servants that came along as a household. As we know, there's the potential for ancient families to be included as a household. It also meant servants or slaves in a household. So maybe it wasn't just Noah and his 3 sons, but also their families and those who were members of their families as well. So we wanted to represent that and give plenty of space and plenty of room for folks to be able to sleep. So each of these houses, you can see, has got beds. They've got stoves in order to keep warm. They've got maybe I don't know if that's a hay bale or something like that, or chests as well, to be able to store things. So beautiful sunrise in this Minecraft world, sun's getting ready to come up. Let's go ahead and go down some of these stairs. We put fences around the stairs, just it seemed like it would make sense. This is an ocean-going vessel to make sure that nobody would fall. And then obviously we locked them off just to make sure that no creepers would come down. So that's the top deck right there, and we come down and we enter into one of the lower levels, the first fully covered level of the Ark. And we wanted to be able to give some windows, maybe take a look out, appreciate the view. As you can see here, there would be massive center beams probably in the midst of this boat, just supporting each of the decks, probably even more than what we've put in. But we just put 4 main center beams going through the very middle of the boat. Again, keeping symmetry here. You see these lamps. These lamps function as our center beam, and that center beam is going to run straight through the middle of the boat from the top deck all the way down to the bottom deck. Each end of the boat has got one little window that you can look out. Genesis, actually later on, not Genesis 6, but later on in the story, Genesis 8 and 9 tell about Noah's family and obviously the details of what's going on during the Ark and during the duration of the stay of the Ark. A lot of folks think about Noah's Ark as being 40 days and 40 nights, right? They just needed a boat to live for 40 days and 40 nights. But that's actually not true. It was actually a much longer period of time. It was 40 days and 40 nights of rain, and then actually the Ark itself was needed for several more days, and you can go and you can look it up in Genesis chapter 8, the amount of total days. You can just total them up. It says at the end of Genesis chapter 7 that the Ark was actually left on the top of the mountain where it came to rest. I'm going to read you here from Genesis chapter 7. The flood continued for 40 days on the earth. The waters increased and bore up the Ark, and it rose high above the earth. The waters prevailed and increased greatly on the earth, and the Ark floated on the face of the waters. And then jumping down into verse 23, blotted out all things that were on the face of the ground, man and animals, creeping things, birds of the heavens. They were blotted out on the earth. Only Noah was left, and those who were with him in the Ark. And verse 24, and the waters prevailed on the earth 150 days. And then jumping over to Genesis chapter 8, we're told, at the end of the 150 days, the waters had abated, and in the 7th month, the 17th day of the month, the Ark came to rest on Mount Ararat, and the waters continued to abate, so subside, until the 10th month, so another 3 months. So 40 days, 40 nights of rain, and then 150 days that the waters are there, and then finally the Ark comes to rest, and then when the Ark finally does come to rest, it's chilling on the top of presumably a mountain, but while it's chilling on the top of this mountain, there's still waters around it. People can't get out yet. It's not as though there's dry ground. And so the Ark, the point being that the Ark needed to function as a sanctuary for survival, and really the world's first apocalyptic survival bunker for a much longer time than just 40 days, 40 nights. Although that is it's a helpful thing to remember, 40 days, 40 nights of rain, but a much longer time than just 40 days, 40 nights was everybody cooped up and cramped up into the Ark. And so sure enough, as you see here, the proportions of the Ark, this is a huge vessel. All right, everything is to scale. We scaled everything to a half scale, so this is a half-size Ark, what it would actually be. So it actually would be a little bit larger than what we scaled it to. It's about half the size of what a 0.5 scale, so that's the model terminology there, but it's a 0.5 scale of what the Ark would actually be. And if you're looking around, it takes a while to walk around in Minecraft, even if you're flying on creative mode and you're moving faster. It takes a while to move around. This is a huge vessel that took years to build. This vessel, like I just said, is for the time, and even today, I mean, just looking around it in Minecraft, I'm blown away by it, by how big this thing must have been. State-of-the-art survival shelter, right? I mean, this was the first apocalyptic event, and sure enough, the people who were inside this Ark were going to survive it, and so were all the animals as well. Here we come down to one of the lower decks, and we start to see some animal food and some pens being made up over here. The amount of space that was required for animals to survive on this boat. It just blows my mind just how big this boat must have been. I mean, maybe, I don't know about you, sometimes I complain about moving a friend up to a second story, or moving someone out of a second story apartment or a third story apartment, or how many flights you got to go when you're moving. But I mean, this boat had at least 3 different decks, an upper, a middle, and a lower. And these decks were massive. The amount of space that was required to house the amount of animals, oftentimes that gets challenged. And I'd encourage you to go and do some more research on your own if you've got more questions, or feel free to shoot us an email. I'd love to talk to you more about Genesis 6 and Noah and the different possibilities and specifics about the amount of animals that would have needed to be housed here. You can just take a look and see just how big this boat is, and this is a 0.5 scale, so this isn't even the whole thing in terms of the size, just how many animals could have survived on the Ark. We're going to descend now into some of the lower decks and take a look at some of the storage. My potion of night vision has worn off, and that's fine. We're going to let that stay worn off, and we're just going to take a look around using these lanterns. That was one of the questions that kind of came up through our creative process, was how on earth would Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth and Noah's family have actually seen anything inside the Ark? I mean, if it's raining for 40 days and 40 nights, it's presumably not very sunny. So they must have kept a lot of fuel on board, if they were going to have torches or lights, and light would have been essential. I mean, if you've got all of these different various kinds of animals on board, and you've got to feed them, you've got chores to do, presumptively that this is a long enough time that some of these animals, if they came on board the Ark and they were in mating season or in heat, and they're going to be giving birth to new animals at some point, potentially, then that all needs to be taken care of, and the humans that are there can help out as needed in order to address whatever kind of emergencies would come up. If there were fights between the animals, if there was ever a lack of food, I mean, just thinking about what this Ark served as, it served as the survival shelter for everything that was living in and around the area, at least, of Noah at the time. Descending down into the very lowest deck, you can see our center beam running through the very middle of the Ark, and again, that's incredibly important. That line would also be used for developing a keel on the very bottom of the boat, and keels are incredibly important for making sure that the boat doesn't tip over as you're going about on the ocean. That's what prevents the boat. If you're on the water and you're just flat on the water and you get hit with a wave, you can very easily just tip over. But if you've got a center line underneath your boat, then if a wave hits you, that center line also acts as a preventative measure against your boat capsizing. So we've got some more lanterns down here. We thought that it was important to give some lanterns and some support structure here to the very bottom of the boat, because we were thinking about this as we were working. Well, what would happen if there was a leak in the bottom of the Ark? I mean, you've got to have light to get down there to repair it. You've got to get down there to see what's going on. And so we also actually created a drainage system as well on both sides of the basement of the Ark that would allow for some water to get pumped out, because electronic pumps that are used, for instance, or pressure pumps that are used in submarines or modern naval ocean-going vessels now would not have been available, obviously. So what would they have done? How would they have handled leaking or water coming in? Or what if there's water on board? If everything's sealed tight, then how are you going to get rid of it? You're going to have to go down there and scoop it all out and then carry it all the way up. So we just created a little primitive drainage system down there in the bottom of Noah's Ark. As you can tell, there's just a ton of materials that are down here that are supplied. Who knows what kind of preservative system Noah and his family used while they were down here to keep various food sources alive. Some have theorized quite convincingly, in my opinion, that potentially some of the animals would have hibernated through some of the flood. Other animals maybe would have just been in a state of dormancy, of relative dormancy, not quite knowing what's going on and just going into survival mode. So banding together. Some of that's a little bit, here or there. I'm not willing to say definitively on that. But what I am willing to definitively say is that Noah's Ark is a massive, massive undertaking. It was a massive undertaking for us. It was incredibly fun to do. An awesome learning experience, honestly, for me, that I just had to do a ton of research on different artist representations of Noah's Ark and different theories about all sorts of different questions, right? If you're ever wondering, hey, how do you get into a gospel conversation with someone? How do you share with someone about your faith, or how do you tell someone a little bit about what you believe in, or get into the meat of the text, the meat of the Bible? What a wonderful way to enter into discussion, right? To play a game, to take a game that's already existing. You don't have to go make your own Bible game. You can take a game that's already existing and say, hey, what would it look like for us to do this joint project? And sure enough, while we were doing this joint project, questions came up of, did Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, were they the only ones working on this boat? Where were they getting the materials from? Were they also chopping down all the trees for everything? Were they buying that from local merchants? Were they getting it shipped in? Did Noah have any kind of naval-going knowledge prior to building the ark? Did they mess up? We messed up twice when we were building this ark. The first time we did it, we actually tried it on survival mode, and we realized, oh my goodness, this is just going to take us hours and hours and hours and hours to actually build up the materials just to be able to build a scale model ark. So we eventually switched over to creative mode. Noah didn't have that luxury. Noah didn't have the creative mode that he could just switch over to and knock out building the ark in 40 man hours with a couple of folks working together. So questions like that, questions like how many people worked on the ark, how many animals were stored on the ark, what sorts of animals were stored on the ark. When we originally put animals in the ark for this display purpose and for this big reveal video, I originally put some wolves and some sheep next to each other just to see what would happen inside their pens. And sure enough, in Minecraft's interaction, of course, the wolves killed the sheep. But it was just a little funny example of what did Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth do with carnivores that were on the ark? What did the omnivores do? Was there a farming system? Was there some sort of growth system on the ark for Noah and for his family to be able to grow sustainable methods of food? And it really was just a really awesome time of being able to share and dig into God's Word together. Again, Christians and non-Christians coming together, digging into God's Word together, and asking questions of God's Word, asking good, hard, well thought out questions, and then trying to represent it through a beautiful medium like Minecraft with the beautiful sunset setting off on this beautiful creative world. Well, thanks so much for checking out our secret project. We had a lot of fun putting it together. I hope you've had a little bit of fun following along as well as learning and seeing what it was like for us to build Noah's Ark in Minecraft. Potentially there's room for us to do more projects, but this is really just a spur-of-the-moment thing where a couple of folks came together and we had some questions about one particular text in God's Word, and so we put our heads together and we knocked it out together. So thanks so much for your support. Thank you so much if you're a prayer warrior and supporter of Gospel and Gaming. This is some of the stuff that we do, where we creatively address problems and creatively think about how we can engage folks with gospel-centered conversations and bringing folks into the biblical story and then relating the biblical story even into today's world. So thanks so much for your prayers, for your support, and for your questions over the last couple of weeks about Secret Project. Here it is. I hope you enjoy it. I really hope that this is beneficial to you. And Lord willing, over the summer, we're going to be doing a couple more Minecraft events and a couple more Minecraft demonstrations of some more biblical imagery through the beautiful medium of Minecraft. So thanks so much for checking out the video, for following us along during the Secret Project. It's truly been a blessing and a fun time for me, but it's also been a wonderful opportunity to be able to share and to dig into God's Word, both Christians and non-Christians, furthering our faith, furthering our discipleship, and growing in our conversations about who God is and why He matters. Thanks so much for watching today.